Does your home require expensive repairs and you just don't have the funds to fix them? Regardless of whether you want to buy or sell, Taylor Andre of Thumbprint Realty is here to help. From saving your home from foreclosure to walking you through the process of becoming a first-time homeowner, Taylor makes real estate easy. With your best interests at heart, knowledge of the market, and a passion for people, Taylor is dedicated and motivated to serve you.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Taylor Andre, and I am determined and dedicated in assisting you in all of your real estate needs. Give me a call at 617-459-0041. Again, that number is 617-459-0041. Or you can email me at TAYLAANDRE@thumbprintrealty.com.
You are now listening to Spark FM.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Taylor Andre. Waking up with Taylor Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. You already know what it is. Today is the day that the Lord hath made, and we got Dr. Umar Johnson in the building. How are you? Good rising.
All is well. Glad to be back on the show. Good to see you.
You just woke up? You look a little sleepy. You good?
Nah, I've been up for a while. Already had some conversations.
He said this, I'm already halfway through my day, Taylor. And so you know that I could not even begin our show. My listeners will never listen to me again if the first question I don't ask is, what's going on with the all-boys school?
The Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. We're in the process of renovating the school. Renovations, that's where we are. We're trying to get the HVAC and the plumbing done, but it's all about renovations, and it's not just the money. It's about finding responsible people who will have some follow through. We've already had some issues with some contractors who didn't do the work that they were paid to do and didn't do it well. So we're trying to keep it all black, but of course we have a lot of post-traumatic slavery residue that we're dealing with psychologically with our people, so they don't always take us and the work as seriously as they should when it's being done within the community. So that's the big challenge right now. But we're pushing forward. We're in a good space. I'm not concerned. I'm happy where we are. We have 4 beautiful buildings, 2 gyms, 2 schools. And once the campus is renovated, we will be the largest independent school campus in the country. And I believe we're the only independent school that has at least 2 school buildings.
And where is this located?
Wilmington, Delaware, 20 minutes from the Philadelphia International Airport.
And as far as, so I do know, being a real estate agent, I do know how difficult it is to find contractors that follow through on what they say they're going to do and do it in a timely manner. And so are you looking for contractors? Are you looking for plumbers, HVAC? Because I know a dope female here in Boston that does HVAC and has her own company. How can we help?
Well, what you could do is you could give her my number, have her text me, and we can schedule a time for her to come to the school. We can walk through. She can put eyes on it and tell me if it's something she's willing to do. Of course, she would have to get her license transferred over, which is not difficult. It's about a 3-week process. Delaware is very accepting of outside contractors, so it's not a difficult process. Or she can find someone locally if she has contacts there under whose license she can work. But that's not a problem because contractors come from outside of Delaware all the time to do work. So it's just a matter of she and I choosing a date for her to come and put eyes on the school.
Vanessa, you hear my voice. I got you, boo. Okay, so you are coming back to the Northeast. Please tell us what's going on, because you're going to be in Providence. You're going to be in Boston. What are you doing?
Yes, it's a New England tour. I don't get a chance to come up to New England as often as I would like. I don't get a chance to go anywhere as often as I like because America is a big place and the world is a big place. And being a Pan-Africanist, I have to travel the world. So it's not just about the U.S. It's about African people everywhere. And so I'll be in Middletown, Connecticut on this Saturday, March the 27th. And I will be releasing the new book, Black Parent Advocate. 550 pages of liberation information for Black parents. Very proud of the book. It took me 3 years to get it done. I can't believe I'm done it, but it is complete. And so we'll be at the Free Space in Middleton, Connecticut this Saturday from 2 o'clock until 8 o'clock. And it's free. It's also a drop-in clinic. So parents in Connecticut who have issues involving their children, They can come through, bring their paperwork, bring their questions, bring their school concerns, and they'll get free answers. So the consultations will be free on that day. The book itself is $50 for those who want it. But if they don't want the book and simply just want to get some help, that's fine as well. But I strongly recommend that every Black parent who's raising children who have not yet graduated high school, they need a copy of this. This is the only book that's teaching our parents how to respond effectively to the school's agendas to mess over our children. So you need this. It is a war manual. And so then the very next day on Sunday, we're right outside of Providence, Rhode Island in Lincoln. There's a Black-owned sanctuary social club. It's called the Sanctuary Social Club. It's a Black-owned space in Lincoln, Rhode Island, just outside of Providence, and we'll be there the exact same time. Both book signings, Saturday and Sunday, Middleton, Connecticut, and Providence, Rhode Island, are from 2 until 8. All my book signings are from 2 until 8. I do that to keep consistency as I travel around the country. And then I'll be back in New England in 2 weeks for the main event, which is the New England Regional Black Parent Know Your School Rights Bootcamp, which will be in Boston, Massachusetts on Saturday, April the 10th. That's Saturday, April the 10th. Now, you don't need to register for the book signing. You can just come. No tickets, no registration. Middletown, Connecticut, Providence, Rhode Island. You just show up. But for the Boston Know Your School Rights Bootcamp on April the 10th, you must register. Due to COVID, we can only have 50 parents receive the training at one time. Mm-hmm. So if anyone plans to come to Boston, Massachusetts, will be at the Good Shepherd Church, 18 Whittier Street, from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. That's why we call it a boot camp. It is 12 hours of intensive information. I'm going to have all the paperwork, all the materials, and we literally start on time and we go all the way through 8 o'clock. If you're not in your seat by 10 a.m., you will not be allowed in. You must be seated by 10, because if you miss more than 2 hours of the training, you won't understand the rest of the training. And they can register for that at DrUmarJohnson.com. And we will also provide lunch for the parents as well, a catered lunch, but only 50 parents. And that's for the whole New England. So that's Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. If you need that training, and every parent needs it, you need to definitely go to my website and register now.
Okay, so what is the difference between what's happening in Rhode Island and Connecticut and what's happening in Boston?
Middleton, Connecticut, and Providence, Rhode Island are strictly book signings and drop-in clinics. Mm-hmm. Come and get your book. Come meet Dr. Umar. Those are meet and greet book signings and clinics where you can get quick answers.
You say, like, my child has an IEP. I come and bring the paperwork. I have questions about the IEP.
Yes.
Okay.
I will look through the paperwork, and I will tell you how to respond to that specific situation. So that's why we call it drop-in clinic. You drop in with the paperwork, I take a look at it, and I answer your questions related to the paperwork.
Mm-hmm. And so will you have other people there? Because I have absolutely nothing to do with education, but I've had parents ask me to help them with IEPs, several, to come into the schools and to act as an advocate for their child. And it's to look over the IEP by itself is some time. And then to walk it through parents that have questions where the school is not answering or their liaison is not answering, that's some more time. So will you be having help, or like, should people come knowing that it's going to be a hurry up and wait type situation?
No, the way the book signings have worked, and they've all went very smoothly, is there's always enough time for me to deal with that parent. They won't get an hour, they won't get 30 minutes, but they'll get about 10 minutes. And I'm an expert in this area, so I don't need a lot of time. As soon as I look at the IEP, I'm going to know exactly what it is. It's like a medical doctor. You come into the office and they automatically know what that is. You know, so for me, I don't need a lot of time with it. It's second nature to me at this point, you know, so it'll be okay. My only concern would be if you intend to come and get some help in terms of questions and answers with paperwork, don't wait to the last minute. That's the only disclaimer. In other words, it's over at 8 o'clock. If you're showing up at 7:30, then you're probably not going to get the help you need because you're coming too late. If you have paperwork that you want Dr. Umar to review, you should be there at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. You should be there before o'clock. So to your point, I recommend parents who do need assistance with paperwork and issues, if it's not just a quick question, they should be there during the first half of the book signing. They should be there before 4 o'clock, definitely before 5 o'clock. But I've never had an issue so far where I really needed to spend more than 10 minutes with the parent because I'm so used to all the issues. And it's normally just a quick fix, 1, 2, 3. This is what you need to do. And if they get a copy of this right here, this is going to solve half the problems anyway. And I'm probably going to encourage them to come to Boston 2 weeks later for the boot camp. They absolutely need the book. They absolutely need the training. The drop-in clinics are good, but the drop-in clinics aren't comprehensive. I'm going to answer that question, but there's a lot of other things that might be related to that issue that you're only going to get that information from at the training or through the book.
What are some of the very common issues that parents have when they come to clinics?
Wow. And I cover a great deal of them in Black Parent Advocate, but ADHD is always an issue, medication. They want to evaluate my child and I don't want them to, so special ed eligibility. My child is in special education, but they're not getting the quality of the service that they need, so quality of service. Also, children who are in special ed too long, so violations of least restrictive environment. A parent not being comfortable where the child is, transferring the child out to a better school, so that's free and appropriate public education, independent evaluations. Honestly, all the issues are common. A child who has speech issues and they're not yet old enough for kindergarten, what do you do? So that's an early intervention issue. It's so many different common issues that I probably couldn't boil them down to just a few, but the three umbrellas though, the umbrellas would be the disability itself, so the classification, the quality of service, and then behavior. Those would probably be the three biggest issues. What to do if the school is constantly complaining about my child's behavior. And I have a whole chapter in this book on how to deal with behavior without medication. And that same chapter is in the first book as well, Psychoacademic Holocaust.
So let's not give away all of the goodies in the book, but let's discuss the fact that children have changed. And so you and I have a relationship. We've known each other for a few years. The big kids are now 17 and 15. And I have a little one that's now 2, which is completely different from the first 2. And I don't know if it's in the water. I don't know if it's in the food, but this entire new generation is different, right? And so specifically with Baby Rain, he's on go all of the time. And it's just all the, everyone is just like, oh, Tayla, he's a boy, but Anari's a boy too. And Anari, you know, all children are different, but I can see now that in the future, I am going to get calls about he wants to play. He's hands-on. He, like, for the parents that are dealing with this or will have to deal with this, what does the book say about rambunctious boys just being boys and how to, I don't want to say cope, but to guide them with who they are in their personality without altering who they are, but also understanding that you can't change an entire school system?
Well, you have to keep in mind that it's important that parents evaluate. It's important that parents evaluate the complaints that they get from the school. See, the first step is making sure you validate the authenticity of the complaint. So if a teacher is calling you saying your son is too hyper according to who? Based on what? Boys are boys. That doesn't mean they should be allowed to do what they want, but they also have a natural, God-given level of energy that schools do not operate or do not plan for effectively. In a lot of our schools, there's almost no time for recess. In a lot of the schools, due to budget cuts, there's no gym, there's no physical activity. Class trips has been slashed, and due to COVID, they don't really go outside. So you have to look at the natural needs of a child and ask yourself, is the school giving my son enough opportunity to be a boy? Where are the periods of physical activity? I remember when I was in school, we had gym every day. We had recess every day. We had a class trip at least once a month. You understand? And then after school, we was on the track team and different things like that. So there was a lot of opportunities for physical exertion. So you have to first make sure that's being taken care of. Children should not be blamed because schools cannot provide for their natural levels of God-given masculine energy. And too often Black boys are being blamed for the fact that the schools are not doing anything or doing enough to accommodate the masculine energy that all of them have. See, schools,
Go ahead.
okay,
Continue. Sorry.
schools are ran by women. Schools are a female institution. The principals might be male. You might have a couple of male teachers, but schools are ran by feminine energy. So the Black boy is twice discriminated against. He's discriminated against because he's Black in a white-dominated institution, and he's discriminated against because he's a male in a female-dominated institution. So we have to make sure we account for the racism and the sexism that is built into the institutional fabric of America's public and charter schools.
Okay, so
but let me add this, Taylor. Let me add this.
Go ahead.
Let's say you validate the complaint and it is accurate. The next question becomes, where is the behavioral intervention program? Where is the behavioral intervention program? What is the classroom management program? I want to know what the teacher does when my son doesn't do well. I want to know what are the rewards my son get when he does well, because too often, teachers only focus on negative behavior. And if you only focus on negative behavior, if the only way this child gets attention from his teacher is by misbehaving, then he's likely to misbehave more because you're rewarding the misbehavior with constant attention and you're punishing the positive behavior because you never pay attention to that. I often recommend that parents hire a school psychologist or any psychologist or a behavior specialist to go into the classroom and observe your child. You cannot assume the teacher is telling you the truth. Teachers lie on children. I can say that. I'm a certified school principal. I'm a former school principal. I'm a school psychologist. Teachers exaggerate. Teachers lie. I've went into classrooms where the child of interest was not even the main behavior problem. The child of interest was not even the main behavior problem. And the child who was the main behavior problem was never even singled out by the teacher. So you have to really find out what's going on in that classroom. And assuming the teacher is telling you the truth is a recipe for disaster. Get your own professional to go into that class and observe what's happening.
Okay, let's say, for instance, here in Boston, 50% of Bostonians make less than $30,000 a year. A school psychologist to sit in a classroom for an hour is $250.
No, it's not. It should
How
not
much
be.
is it?
And of course, my fees are always extremely reasonable. I'm usually for a parent, and I have a sliding scale, so I'm gonna look at what the parent can afford. Now, are there psychologists who may charge you $300 an hour? Yes. But I would tell you to tell them go to hell. You should be able to find you a school psychologist who could go in there because it's only a 1 hour observation. You might have to pay $100. Get you a social worker, $75. Get you a licensed professional counselor. You might pay $50, but you should not have to pay $250 for a 1 hour observation. Now, unless that's somebody who comes with a heavy reputation, okay, I could charge something like that because I have a strong reputation in the field, but you shouldn't have to pay that much. No more than $100. And they should observe your child 3 times, 3 different days, in 3 different classrooms. Week 1, Monday, 8 o'clock reading. Week 2, Wednesday, 12 noon math. Week 3, Friday, 2 o'clock art. And the reason you're going to pay them, so it may cost you $300 total, but it shouldn't cost you $300 per observation. So 3 observations, maybe $100 a piece. I think you can get it cheaper than that. And the reason you want to do 3, Taylor, is if the psychologist observes your son one day, what if your son had a really good day? What if the behavior I see Monday at 8 o'clock in reading is not the regular behavior of your son? What if he has a really bad day and I only observe him once? Now I'm thinking this kid is a terror when he just had a bad day. That's why you need multiple. And why do I want to observe him in reading and then math? Because he may act totally different in math than reading. What if he has a great relationship with the reading teacher and a horrible relationship with the math teacher? There's reasons for that. And so now the school cannot assert that your son is emotionally disturbed or has conduct disorder because you're the only teacher he has a problem with. So this is not a systemic issue. This is a personality issue that needs to be worked out between that teacher and that child. And then you go to art class, and he may be the best kid in the art class because he loves to draw. So then we could potentially use art as a reinforcer, as a positive reward for when he behaves. So that's why you want at least 3 observations. The more, the better. You can do 5, you can do 7, but 3 minimum to get a good baseline of average behavior.
Mm-hmm. Does this Black Parent Advocate book speak on systems in general? So Inari and Asaria do attend a charter school, which is completely different than the BPS system. They have their own autonomy. They, I can say I want X, Y, Z, and it will get done a lot faster than if they were at BPS. So when you have a child at a public school that has 50,000 kids, your one child means nothing. Your one voice sounds like nothing. Does that book talk about parents uniting in order to combat systems?
Absolutely. One of the first things I discuss here, and has already been discussed in psychoacademic Holocaust, is you get more change and quicker change when you organize. I talk about how it's better for 5 parents to meet with the principal who are all getting the same complaint from their teachers than 1 parent meeting with the principal. Why is that? Because when 3 parents show up or 5 parents show up, particularly if they're having an issue with that same teacher, it's no longer an individual child issue. It's no longer a personality issue. It has just become a systemic issue. It is now an institutional problem. You have multiple parents, multiple children having the same issue. For example, let's say you got 5 parents of Black boys in kindergarten or girls, and the kindergarten teacher want them all evaluated for a reading disability. There's a problem going on. Or you got 5 kids in 7th grade, and that teacher is constantly suspending all 5 of those kids for 3 days every week. That's a systemic problem. And once it becomes a systemic problem, it automatically warrants the attention of the superintendent and the chair of the school board, and possibly even the state secretary of education. But let me say this to your earlier comment, Taylor, because I want your parents to be clear. Charter schools are public schools. Mm-hmm. Okay? They're public schools. Charter schools are given autonomy, but they're not given autonomy from state law, federal law, and state due process. In other words, every law that the public school must follow, the charter school must follow. That's why they have special education. That's why they take the state assessments. They are public schools. They are alternative public schools. The autonomy that you're given as a charter school is you're given the freedom to innovate the learning process. You're given the freedom to modify the learning process to maximize gain. So the state is going to give you some room. The state is going to back off of Taylor and say, hey, you got a charter school, we're going to give you some space to design your learning program however you want. You will still follow our laws. You will still follow our procedures. You will still have special ed. You will still do all of that. But we're going to let you design your curriculum how you want. We're going to let you design your operation plan how you want. You better make sure you account for all of the state regulations, all of them. And we're going to give you some room. But if you don't prove that your model works, We're going to give you 3 to 5 years. If you don't prove that your model works for these children in Boston or these children in Connecticut or these children in Rhode Island, we're going to put you in corrective action. And corrective action is going to be a few years. And if you don't improve after that, we take your charter and we shut you down. Charter schools are public schools. The problem is most parents
from my
don't
own
know
personal opinion, charter schools, this particular charter school teaches for the MCAS and only teaches for the test. That
because they're scared of losing a charter. They're scared. Charter schools are paranoid of losing their charter. And what are the 3 reasons that are most often cited for why your charter is revoked? Number 1, not having enough certified teachers. Number 2, low test scores. Number 1 is low test scores. That's why they're paranoid. That's why you see nationally, you have charter schools cheating. You have people go to jail because they're doing the tests for the children because they know if we don't score high enough, they're taking this charter. So low test scores. Number 2, financial mismanagement. They always want to accuse, especially the black charter schools, they want to accuse you of stealing. And number 3, not enough certified teachers. Those are the 3 reasons that charter schools get shut down. Charter schools were never for black children. They were never for black people. And that's why when you're black and you open up a charter school, you better dot every I and cross every T because the state is coming for you. And that's why the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy will be an independent school because I've already played the charter school game. I've never opened one, but I've ran them. And I'm not interested in running through them hoops. It is not worth it. The black community needs to go back to community control of the public school. That's what we were fighting for in the 60s. That's what we were fighting for in the 70s. That's what we were fighting for in the 80s. Community control of the public school. And then we gave it up, Taylor. And you know why we gave it up? Because a group of white parents in Minnesota was able to convince the Minnesota State Board of Education to create something known as a charter school, which was a compromise. They wanted their kids to get a private education on a public dollar, which is illegal. So the charter was a compromise that said, listen, you're still public, but we're going to give you the freedom to design your program as you want. That's why charter schools might look like they're private, but they're still public. The charter school was a compromise. You understand? It was never for us. It was for white citizens who wanted to educate their kids privately on a public dollar. They couldn't do that. So the compromise was charter school.
Mm-hmm. So I physically don't have a copy of the book in my hand. Can we go through the table of contents?
Certainly. Well, first of all, the book is broken into 2 sections. Section number 1 is correspondence. Section number 2 is documentation. What is correspondence? Correspondence is the letters that parents can use to respond to the school.
So you have sample letters that parents
absolutely. So let's give you an example. The school asks you permission to evaluate your son for a reading disability. You do not agree that he has a reading disability. He just had a late start, didn't go to preschool, may not have done kindergarten, whatever the case may be. How do you respond? I don't want my son tested. How do I respond? So what I do is I give you the background on the topic. I talk about the background. What about ADHD? What about black boys? What about the school targeting? And then after we talk about the background, I then give you the sample letter that you can use. Do not copy my letter. You recreate my letter. And the reason you can't copy the letter, because number 1, every letter is addressed to a major white racist from our history. Okay? Every single letter.
To Robert Lee.
Robert E. Lee, George Bush, Adolf Hitler, they're all in here. So every one of them is a principal. For the purposes of this book, every one of them is a principal of a school. And the letter is coming from one of our great freedom fighter ancestors. So every letter is to a racist and every letter is from a hero. And the date on every letter is a significant date in African history. So there's a little bit of trivia built into the book to help you raise your black consciousness. Who is this white person? Who is this black person? And what happened on this particular date that I should know about? And if I'm not mistaken, Taylor, every state has been accounted for in the letters. And what I mean by that, there's There's a letter to a school in Massachusetts. There's a letter to a school in California. There's a letter to a school in Puerto Rico. There's a letter to the school in St. Thomas Virgin Islands, which is a U.S. territory. There's a letter to a school in Pennsylvania. And all of the school names are a cause for comedy, because you're going to laugh when you read things like the Barack Obama Public School to eliminate black civil rights, or the George Bush Charter School for white supremacy, or the Donald Trump Independent School for global white imperialism. So there's a little bit of political education in the book. So those are the letters.
So really quickly, talking about the letters. So is there anything in the letters that are like geared towards the state, like section 4, subsection B?
No. We dealing with federal law. We dealing with federal laws for everybody. Federal laws for everybody.
Each letter has like cites federal law.
Absolutely. In other words, no matter where you live, if you're under that red, white, and blue flag, you can use these letters. I deal strictly with the federal. That way it applies to everybody. Remember, the state can add to the law. The state cannot undermine the law. For example, you got 60 days to evaluate a child. 60 days. That 60 days applies whether you're in Guam, whether you're in Puerto Rico, St. Thomas, Boston, Philadelphia, California. 60 days. The state cannot undermine that. They can't say it's going to be 70 in Boston. It's going to be 80 in Providence. It's going to be 90 in New Haven, Connecticut. No. It is 60. Can the state make it 45? They can make it 45. So they can give their psychologists an even smaller window, but they can't give them a bigger window. So everything in here applies to every black parent under the American flag anywhere in the world. But let me give you the second part, Tayla. Let me give you the second part. Okay. I didn't give you that. So the first part is the letters, right? The background to the letters, education on the topic, then the sample letter. The second part is documentation. The second part, I go over the major school documents that black parents don't understand, don't know how to read, don't know how to evaluate. So I break down the IEP component for component. I break down the psychological evaluation report component for component. I break down the pre-referral intervention program component for component. I break down the behavior plan component for component. Never before has a psychologist broken down the documents for black parents the way that I've done this. So if you get your child's IEP, you can open up this book, put your IEP on the table and say, okay, let me see what Dr. Umar says about section 1. And let me see what the school said. Let me see what Dr. Umar says about section 2. Let me see what the school said. You can put your psychology evaluation on the table. Let me see what Dr. Umar says about the reason for the referral. Let me see what Dr. Umar says about the intellectual assessment. Let me see what Dr. Umar says about the academic assessment. Let me see what he says about the emotional assessment. So you can literally put this next to the report and go section for section. And I teach you how to read it, how to understand it, and how to evaluate it. I'm very proud of my book. Very proud of my book.
Okay, so the first section are the letters. The second section is
documentation. Correspondence part 1, documentation part 2. And I also have a chapter for homeschooling. If you're homeschooling your child, this is the checklist that you need to make sure you account for, such as how long will you be homeschooling your child? How long will you be homeschooling your child? Are you going to homeschool them till they graduate? Or are you going to homeschool them for a couple of years? Because guess what? If you're only homeschooling for a couple of years, you better make sure that child remains on grade level. Because if you miseducate your child at home and think you're going to stick them back into the Boston public schools, the Hartford, Connecticut public schools, the Providence, Rhode Island public schools, and that child is no longer on grade level, they're going to end up in special education, miseducated by their own parents. So the homeschool chapter is a very important chapter. There's another chapter on how to deal with, how to conduct yourself at a school meeting. Because we don't know how to conduct ourselves at the school meeting. We talk too much.
You ain't finna talk to me. You ain't about to talk about me on there.
You know, we get emotional. We start looking for sympathy at the meetings. We discuss personal business that the school don't need to know about. We show up by ourselves. We don't know why the meeting was called in the first place. You never go to a meeting that you don't know what it's for. And the schools like to trap you because they'll call you up and say, Mrs. Andre, we need to talk to you about your son. And you say, can you tell me what this is about? We would much rather wait until we see you on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. No.
Nah, y'all finna text me.
No,
Well,
you're going to tell me.
I'm a different type of parent then.
You're going to tell
read that
me.
chapter already clearly.
Exactly. You're going to tell me why I'm coming in there. You don't ever go into a war not knowing what the war is about. You never show up at a school unprepared. And you have to know your paperwork, Taylor. You have to know your paperwork. And then I put a bunch of quotes in here from The Art of War. So I took Sun Tzu's Art of War and I adapted it for Black parents in miseducation. So for example, let me read you one of them. So first I read the Sun Tzu quote, and then I give you the Dr. Umar adaptation of the Sun Tzu quote. Listen to this. This is Sun Tzu. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. I say the prudent Black parent will research the personality and reputation of all personnel with whom they may come into contact during their grievance process. They will speak with parents, teachers, former central office staff, and whomever else they can find to gain insight into the minds and methods of those on the school team and within the central office hierarchy. Knowing who these people are, how long they have been at your district, their professional habits for handling disputes will be invaluable towards crafting your overall war strategy. Knowing your opponent well and controlling your own vulnerabilities, such as tendencies to get emotional or reveal too much of what you know, will help you ascertain victory. And so all throughout the book, I deal with Sun Tzu because we have to have a military consciousness when we go into the school. We don't go into the school with a military consciousness. We go into the school with a collaborative consciousness. We go into the school saying, these are my friends. These are my buddies. They care about our kids. Well, Taylor, if they care about our kids so much, why is only 1 out of every 4 Black boys in America graduating from high school? If they care about our kids so much, why are more than 50% of all Black boys in America will be referred for special ed or ADHD at some point in their life? If they care about our kids so much, why are less than 40% of all Black boys passing the graduation examinations in America's states that require them? The school is not your friend. The school is an extension of the mass incarceration industry. The principals are the new wardens and the teachers are the new police officers. And you better be careful of what you say because it can and will be used against you.
Amen. You know, Dr. Umar, I want to ask you a question. And I want you to understand that it's purely out of love. With all of the jewels that you drop, with all of the knowledge that you have, with all of the skills that you possess, why are you constantly attacked?
Because of my unapologetic position. We are not used to, not white America, not Black America, not even the African diaspora. We are not used to well-trained, professional, credentialed Black males being principled on political issues. Think about it. How many other Black scholars, and when I say scholar, I'm not talking about YouTubians, self-educated brothers from the hood who make videos all day. That's not a scholar. I'm talking about somebody with a doctoral degree that they earned from an accredited university who has conducted research and had to have that research approved in order to get their doctorate degree. That's a scholar, someone who is a published author and who has published research. How many Black scholars do you know of who are public with their political principles and will pronounce them and make them clear and not care about who don't like it? For example, I am the only Black scholar I know of who openly is against interracial marriage. Not because I have an issue with white women. I have nothing wrong. I respect all women, white, purple. It doesn't matter. Of course, my loyalty is to the African queen, but I respect all women. My issue is if we want to save the Black family, we have to build strong Black family. That's a Black woman and a Black man. You understand? So it's not about hatred. It's about saving us, preserving us. I don't know of another scholar. Maybe you do. I don't know of one of them who says, listen, we got to stop this snow bunny crisis because it's killing our community. Our children don't have healthy Black young families that they can look towards as an example or a role model of what they should do. And of course, we do have a lot of them. But amongst our professional Black men, we are more likely to date in another community than any other culture in America. So there's a clear snow bunny issue that is undermining the stability and future of the Black family. You understand? Who is politically out there saying, listen, we need to get out of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, start our own party, our own political union. I'm not voting for Black politicians unless they are independents. If you're not independent, I'm not giving you my vote. To be honest with you, Taylor, I don't think the pushback is due to what I believe and what I stand for, as much as the pushback is due to the fact that I'm willing to say it and I'm willing to stand on it. We're not used to that. When I say Black women should wear their natural hair, how many Black scholars are saying Black women need to wear their natural hair? At the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, if you're not natural, you can't work there, period. You see, so it's the audacity for you to say something that you know is not popular. It's the audacity to say something that you know is not popular, and then you're going to stand on it, irregardless of what anyone thinks. I am unapologetically African. I created the unapologetically Black movement. Whenever you see unapologetically Black, the hat, the t-shirt, the hoodie, I don't care who's selling it. Dr. Umar came up with that movement. Be unapologetic about your hair, your body, your skin, your lips, your nose, your culture, your music, everything about you. Be unapologetic. And a lot of people can't stand my unapologetically African position. You must be reading some haterade in them comments. I see your eyes.
Yeah.
Let them hate. Let them hate. I don't mind. The bird cannot fly, Sister Tayla, unless there's some resistance. Aerodynamically, the bird should not be able to fly. Did you know that the configuration of the bird's body, aerodynamically, the bird should not be able to fly? But it is the resistance of the wind. It is the gravity that gives the bird the ability to go ahead and soar up through the sky. So that's what I'm doing. I'm soaring like Hey Roo, the hawk in the sky. Let the haters come. Let them shoot their bullets. If you think you can stop me, stop me. They've been trying for 20 years. You can't stop this. Ancestors sent me here to do this work. You can't stop it. Don't get me wrong. It gets difficult, my queen. This is not an easy walk because every day you got Black people trying to destroy you. And you got the white power structure trying to destroy you. So it's not easy. Sometimes I got to sit back for a day or two and just regroup because it is hard. I'm still a human being. But then I remember Marcus Garvey. And by the way, today, March the 23rd is the anniversary of when the greatest Black leader of the 20th century, the greatest Black organizer of all time, the man who gave us the red, black, and green flag you see behind me right now, the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey landed in the United States of America, March the 23rd, 1916. And America ain't been the same since. Pan-Africanism ain't been the same since. And guess what, Sister Tayla? Marcus Garvey sent me back to finish the work. He's like, it's Garvey.
We broke up.
Unified will die. It's all Africans will be free or no Africans will be free. Rest in peace to the president of Tanzania, our elder, our great warrior leader, the president of Tanzania, Brother John Magufuli, who was assassinated because he wouldn't let the COVID vaccination into Tanzania. Assassinated because he wouldn't let the Chinese buy the port of Tanzania. He's an ancestor. He died for the people. He lived for the people. And all of us may have to do that one day, brothers and sisters. We got to unify or die.
So DL is someone here in Boston who I have a lot of love for and a lot of respect. And DL asked whether or not if you feel like you would have answered anything differently in the Lord Jamar interview. And so I'm unfamiliar. I don't know what that interview entails. I don't. So
let me speak to it.
Okay.
I was interviewed by Lord Jamar, former artist of Brand Nubian. I'm a Brand Nubian fan. I love the music, the old school music. And when I did the Lord Jamar interview, I thought I was being interviewed by a colleague and a supporter. I didn't know Lord Jamar was an undercover hater. When I come into an interview, Sister Tayla, if I'm aware that I'm being interviewed by a hater, I'm prepared. So when I went on Roland Martin, I knew a hater was going to come for me. You feel me? I remember I was interviewed in Connecticut one time from a brother. I knew he was a hater. I thought Lord Jamar was a supporter. So I was bothered in that interview because I'm like, oh my goodness. I thought you was down with Dr. Umar. I didn't know you wanted to bring me on your platform to try to undermine my work. Now, as far as would I have answered anything differently? Not at all. Never that. I said everything that I said, you know? And the bottom line is, what institution is Lord Jamar building for Black people? You helped Vlad rape Black culture sitting on his couch for years. You helped Vlad rape Black culture sitting on his couch for years, but you haven't built anything for Black people. So Lord Jamar can't say nothing to me. He's never done half the work I've done in the community. You understand? But to get to the point, I wouldn't have said anything differently. I said what I said. He spent so much time asking me the same questions about the school that I had already answered year after year. And what I didn't know, Sister Tayla, is he was in the chat box like you are right now, but you discerning with your chat box. Lord Jamar wanted to please the haters in the comments as opposed to conduct a respectable upscale interview. And that's why, I lost a lot of respect for him after that. I didn't think he was that type of person.
Well, that's not what I came here to do. I came here to have an honest conversation and a real conversation. And there were questions that I had for myself regarding the school. And you answered that. And being in real estate, I do understand trying to keep everything 100% Black and having, white supremacy hurts Black people as much as it hurts white people. And so for me, my number one question was, because I was ready. What was the first time we did our first interview? Like 7 years ago? 6 years ago? Listen, I was ready to send Nari wherever that school was. Yeah. I was ready to send him. And for me, I'm like, yo, where the school at? Where the school at? Because I see what he's going through at Edward Burke Charter. I see what he's going through as far as he hit me the other day and was like, Mommy, like, I really wish my school would prepare me for college instead of preparing me for life instead of preparing me to take a test. He said, I know how to take a test very well, but I don't like, I have anxiety about life. And so me personally, that's my attachment and my only like, yo, where the school at? But if you're saying it's problems trying to keep it 100% Black and not being able to build the way you want to build, then I get that. I respect that. What are we going to do?
And one of the most challenging things about getting renovations, and I'm sure you know this, and of course, the schools, they are, commercial property. But one of the biggest challenges that I've had in this process is you never get the same information from different contractors. In other words, if you bring the electrician in, electrician number one is going to say, this is all you got to do, and it's going to cost this. Electrician number two, you got to do a whole overhaul. It's going to cost this. Electrician number three, I'm like, if everybody's a licensed electrician, if everybody's a licensed plumber, why the hell am I getting 50 different stories on the renovation, if you follow what I'm saying, Sister Tayla? So it's so frustrating because it's like, how in the hell can you have so many different, radically different opinions on what it takes to rehab this particular system? It is so unnerving, unnerving. But we got to.
We are coming to the top of the hour. I do want to remind people that you will be back. You'll be in Connecticut. You'll be in Rhode Island. In 2 weeks, you'll be in Boston.
Yes, indeed. Providence, Rhode Island. Middletown, Connecticut this Saturday at the Free Space, 52 Main Street in Middletown, March 27th, 2 to 8. Come get the book. Come ask your questions. Meet and greet with the Prince of Panafrikanism. Very next day, we will be just outside of Providence, Rhode Island in Lincoln at the Sanctuary Social Club. Same time, 2 to 8 Saturday, Connecticut. 2 to 8 Sunday, Rhode Island. And then I'll be back in 2 weeks in Boston at the Good Shepherd Church, 18 Whittier Street, for the 12-hour Know Your School Rights. I repeat, Know Your School Rights Black Parent Bootcamp from 8 to 8. You must register for that. You don't have to register for the book signing. Just come. But for the Boston training, Saturday, April 12th, you must register DrUmarJohnson.com, because we can only allow 10 parents in due to COVID restrictions. All your paperwork and your lunch will be provided for you. Come ready to learn. Come comfortable. Bring your water, your juice, your snacks. Wear your flip-flops.
You said 10. You said 50 before. It's 10 or 50?
It's 50. I said 10?
You said 10.
50.
So it's 50
50
parents
maximum,
that
yes.
register. So what about for the parents that are in Boston that want to do the work, to bring like IEPs?
They could bring them, but I'm 99% sure that through the training, their question is going to get answered, because the training is so thorough. The training, Taylor, that I'm giving our parents, just to put it in context, if you got this training from a university or from an attorney, it'll probably cost you about $1,000 or more than that. In fact, they charge you about, $500 for maybe 2 hours. We're doing 12 hours and it's $100. You'll never get this quality of training for $100 or anywhere near it. When I'm giving out $1,000 minimum.
So it's $150. So come prepared, $50 because of the book, right? $50
right.
for the book.
They can buy the book. The book is not included with the training. Okay. The book will be present for those who are coming to the training. Okay. For those who don't come to the training, I'm working with Brother Chris, my host, and we're going to do a book signing somewhere in Boston, probably the morning after the training. Possibly Friday night, Taylor, but that training takes a lot out of me because I'm on my feet for 12 hours. I'm using my mind and my body. So I probably just want to lay in the bed when I get to Boston on Friday. Okay. Do the training Saturday, and I'll probably do a book signing somewhere locally on Sunday. There will be a book signing in Boston, but we won't know where and when until we get closer to the date. It'll probably be Friday night or Sunday morning, but it won't be on Saturday, the day of the training.
Okay. And so we'll have you back on April 1st.
Absolutely. I'll be back. Okay. And let me say this too, Taylor. If they're not coming to the Boston training and they want the book, I recommend they drive up to Providence on this Sunday, because Providence is only 40 minutes from you guys, I think, from Boston. So if you can't come to the training in Boston on April the 10th, drive on up to Providence this Sunday and get the book at the Sanctuary Social Club in Lincoln, or come to Middletown on Saturday, because the book signing in Boston is not a guarantee. The training is a guarantee, but the book signing is not, which means the only parents who will be able to get the book are those who register for the training.
Listen, tell Brother Chris to call me, because we're going to figure out on Sunday, see if we can get you in Roxbury.
Okay. And the training is in Roxbury on Saturday.
On Whittier Street.
If you have an idea of where we can do the book signing in Roxbury, Friday night or Sunday, then yes, I'm going to text you his number, text him your number, and you can also communicate with me. But if you got a spot in mind, let me know.
Absolutely.
Because we can announce that April 1st at the April 1st interview.
So I'm going to go ahead and go get your book, and you can go ahead and go get my book.
What's your book? I didn't know you had a book. What's your book?
Hold on, you didn't know I had a book? I sent it to you.
Wait, it's been out for a while.
Guide, Finally Home, for people preparing for first-time home ownership. Jules, can you grab the book real quick? And so it goes over, just like how you go step by step. I teach people how to go ahead and clean their credit themselves instead of paying a company. If you want to pay a company, we definitely can finesse that too. But to go ahead and fix your credit yourself, to the letters. So the letters that you need to go ahead and put it. Mine don't have like African, dates on it, but fix your credit yourself. Learn how to purchase a home, because a lot of us don't just buy a home. We actually have to prepare to get our savings right, get our credit right, understand the process. And the book is 75 pages and goes through step by step what it is that you need. And it breaks down everything that you should have learned in math class to get you ready for finance in the future is what the book covers.
Absolutely, Queen. Did you give me a hard copy or did you send me a digital copy? When did you give me that? A couple years ago? Because I don't remember.
Not when it came out. So I sent it
What
to
year
the
was
same,
that? What year was that?
this year, 2020. It came out in 2020.
You mailed me a copy.
I mailed you a copy and a hoodie. So you got the Soul Naked hoodie and you got a
No, ma'am. I
Awakening
didn't
My
get it.
Third Eye
Taylor.
hoodie.
Did you send it to
Extra
the
large
Wilmington
in red. Mm-hmm.
Did you send it to the Wilmington P.O. Box or the Philadelphia P.O. Box? Do you remember?
Wilmington.
I'm almost certain I didn't get a hoodie from you. I'm wondering if it was returned to you.
It was. I know it wasn't returned. It was delivered because I'm crazy.
I remember the hoodies. I remember the hoodies because I don't get a lot of hoodies. I would have wore the hoodie.
Well, then I'm gonna make sure I get something for you by the time you here in April.
Okay. And also, just so you know, I'll be getting a lot of inquiries from the Cape Verdean Islands talking about when you come into the Cape Verdean. I'm going to say, well, there's a sister, Tayla Andre in Boston. We talked about me coming there, and she never made it happen. So y'all go hit her up. But I just want you to know whenever y'all ready to
you
do
gonna
this,
put that on me, huh?
I'm going to put that on you. But whenever
you give me that credit card, I'll make it happen. How about that?
I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm ready for
All
Cape
right,
Verdean. Now, I'm
Umar Johnson,
for
Tayla Andre, waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're going to go ahead and end this live. We're going to start a new show for the next guest, but do not forget that Dr. Umar Johnson will be back on April 1st to answer any and all of your questions. And so please come. Like, if you're going to come ask questions, we are going to keep this respectful. Whatever questions you have, say that. And then leave it as that. But what we're not going to do is attack folks. What we're not going to do is come for throats and necks. But if you have questions that are legitimate questions, this is, let's go. Unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope you have an amazing day. Everything's Tayla Andre, Tayla Andre. Mwah.